Welcome to Coochie Conversations, where we give you the real on all things women's health, spirituality, and motherhood. Empowering women to have sovereignty over themselves, we shine light on the disparities that women face daily as divine feminine beings. So steep your favorite tea, roll up your favorite smoke blend, and tune into this week's episode of Coochie Conversations. Peace Tribe, it's your girl Bianca Pittman, aka Divine Mother, giving you a fresh Coochie Conversations episode. Last week, we spoke about studies been finding all the chemicals that are in our sanitary napkins. Today, I wanted to talk about the history of the sanitary napkin. The sanitary pad is no doubt the most popular and widely used product for us women when it comes to menstruation. It's accessible, easy to use, and pretty much straight to the point. Today, the pads we use are a combination of mostly synthetic fibers, chlorine, and other chemicals. But have you ever thought about what the first pads were like? Like, what was your great-grandma and great-great-grandmas using as pads? Well, it's Menstrual Monday, so let's talk about the history of the menstrual pad. Before the invention of what we know as the disposable sanitary pad, most women made use of rags, cotton, rabbit fur, grass, and even wood in their undergarments to soak up the flow of the menstrual blood. The first disposable sanitary napkin was made of cotton and gauze and was put together in 1896. It was successfully commercialized in the United States in 1921. As availability of material became unavailable, there was a need to find a material that was easily affordable and cost-effective. Later, wood pulp was incorporated since it was an absorbent material from soft wood. Fun fact, I learned in the last year or so that your grated Parmesan cheese at maybe like a craft brand or your local grocery store brands, Parmesan cheese is actually made with wood pulp. So needless to say, I have not been eating any grated Parmesan cheese in a very long time. So that was another fun fact for today. I found this to be very interesting that although, women have been bleeding way before the 1800s, pads were originally created and used by men, originally created by former President Benjamin Franklin. So, when we think about Benjamin Franklin, we think about him in a lightning rod and, but they don't really give reverence to him and how he inspired the menstrual pad. So basically, during the war, Benjamin Franklin would use wood pulp bandages to stop the bleeding from soldiers who were on the battlefield. And during this time, there was French nurses who were also working on the battlefields who noticed how well the wood absorbent stopped excessive bleeding from men at war. And it was actually implemented into the first disposable pad that women were finally able to purchase and came out in the 1890s. Because of patriarchal society, we've been taught to be ashamed of our menstrual flow. So even when it came down to marketing sanitary napkins, it was advertised as unmentionables. So how were we really buying our pads if we wasn't even able to mention that we needed pads? Back then, women would literally purchase their pads by putting their money in a box and taking their pad without saying anything to the man behind the counter. So now, fast forward, we're in 2024. Do we still have that innate shame and guilt surrounding our periods? Do you feel anxiety when you go and you buy your pads at your local drugstore and there's a man behind the counter? Are we still ashamed, or do we feel like, all right, it's 2024, that I'm a woman and I get my period? I wonder. I mean, for me, I don't care, but I wonder if women still kind of feel uneasy about buying, pads and things in front of men. Or even better, do you have a partner who would go out and buy your pads for you if you asked him, babe, I need pads. Can you go get me some? Do you have a partner that's like, yeah, I'll go get you some pads? Or do you have a partner that he feels weird for going and buying you pads? I'm going to take a poll on that. So, okay. Now, in 1921, Kimberly Clark is the woman who founded the brand Kotex. And she actually broke the silence by getting women to ask for their pads by referring to it as Kotex, which in short means cotton-like textures. And I found that the name is still synonymous when we ask about sanitary pads today, because you could hear women, maybe be older women, but because it's more their time, but you'll hear a woman refer to a sanitary napkin as a Kotex. So women were so embarrassed to approach the male clerk for Kotex and had another option, which was the box of disposable sanitary pads were placed at the cashier's countertop. So when women could simply just pick up the box and drop the money into a special payment box, making Kotex one of the first self-service items in America. Besides Kimberly Clark, we have Mary Patrice Kenner, who is not really spoken about a lot. Mary Patrice Kenner was a Black inventor of many products that we use today, and her first patent was in 1957 for the sanitary belt. So she is the inventor of the sanitary belt, which she originally invented the sanitary belt in the 1920s, but because she couldn't afford a patent, over time she improved her earlier versions and other versions that were patent before hers, and the sanitary belt that she created aimed to prevent the leakage of menstrual blood on clothing. So the sanitary belt was a version of what we have today as far as having a pad with wings. I love me a pad with wings because I just hate when the pad is able to move around in your underwear, and it just makes you feel more safe and secure as a woman when you have a pad with wings, because you know that you're less likely to have an accident. So it was a company called the Son Nap Pack Company, and they had got word of her invention in 1956, and they contacted her, intending to market her invention. But however, when they discovered that she was a Black woman, they declined wanting to work with her. And beltless pads were invented in the 1970s. As tampons became more popular, women stopped using sanitary belts. It's really preference nowadays, but I feel like back then it wasn't more about preference, it was options. And now in 2024, we have pads, we have tampons, we have we have menstrual cups, we have reusable pads. So I just want to know, like, what is your preference when you shopping for your menstrual? Are you a pad girl? Are you a cup girl? Are you a tampon girl? Do you use reusable pads, or do you free bleed? I'm curious to know. Leave a comment and let us know what your personal preference is. I want to shout out Mary Patrice Kenner for paving the way for us to have pads with wings today. Shout out to Kimberly Clark for breaking the stigma and the taboo about our menstruation and giving us, a safe word or whatever it is to correlate that, I'm on my period and I need a pad. So shout out to these women. Hope that you all enjoyed today's Menstrual Monday Coochie Conversations. I hope that you guys learned something today, and I will see you all next week. Mwah.